today we are going to look at place values and rounding. Okay, so hopefully you guys all know this stuff. You guys have rounded before and have identified place values before. Yes? Yeah? That's good. Okay, so let's look at the following. So what's important about rounding is to know place values. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to identify all the place values for the following number. So we've got this big number with this decimal and all these other numbers. So let's start here from the left where the 2 is. What place value, so look from the decimal, what place value does the 2 belong to?
I guess 10,000.
Double check that. Million, right? So 1 million. In the 1 million. The 3 belongs to the? 100,000.
Oh, I get it.
100,000. The 9 belongs to the? 10,000s. The 4 to the? 1,000s, or just thousands. The 8? 8 belongs to the hundreds. The 5, the tens. The 0 belongs to the ones. Okay. So now we have the decimal. So the first one after the decimal, what is it? What is it? Tenths, right? With a TH or a THS. I like to put it as THS. I like to put it as plural. What do you think some people actually might label this one by accident? What do you think some people might, how might they label it?
I guess they might accidentally use ones or whatever.
Exactly, ones. Because we kind of go in the same order, but you know, as we go in the whole value as a decimal. So, but instead, we don't have a once. There's no such thing as a once column. It starts as the tenths column, the first decimal value. The number 2 after that belongs to the hundredths. The 5, thousandths. The 7, the 10,000ths. And the 3, part of the 100,000ths. So notice the TH or the THS that we use for anything, any place value that is after the decimal. Okay. So that's really, really important to be able to identify. Okay. Let's look at the following. Identify the place value of the underlined digit. Okay, so we have the following: 21493 decimal 95821. What is the place values that one belongs to? What does it belong to? Pardon? Thousand. Right? Thousands or thousands? Thousands. Okay, thousands. Without the THS. Okay. 15.4723, the 2 belongs to the what column? Thousands. 385.21 belongs to the 3 belongs to the hundreds. The next one, 20453.72 belongs to the which one? 10,000s. 0.090145 belongs to the what? The hundreds. Okay, THS. And the 0.1875 belongs to the tenths. Okay. Be real careful with this one. What do you think some people might accidentally call that one? The ones. There's no ones column. Okay. There's no ones column. So, pretty straightforward, right? So just being able to identify the place value is really, really important. Okay, now, rounding off. Here's where things can get a little bit tricky. So when rounding numbers, identify the place value required. Once you've identified the place value, round off the number as follows. If the number is less than 5, keep the number as is. Okay? If the number is 5 or greater, right, which includes 5, round the number to the next digit. Okay. So pretty much that's the rule, right? We're looking for the number 5 after the place value that we're looking for. Okay. We don't care, and this is one of the concerns, and I'm going to show you an example of this in just a second, of some of the common mistakes that students will do when it comes to rounding off. Okay. So remember, we're not including the 5 with this first example. Okay? Okay, we're not including the 5 for this one. Okay? But if it's a 5 or greater, that's the one we're actually including. Let's look at a few examples here. So round to the nearest tens. Okay. Let's round to the nearest tens. Now, to be able to answer this, my advice to you, underline the tens column. Okay. So in the first number, 84. Which of those 2 digits is part of the tens column? Which one? The 8. The 8. 462. Which one is part of the tens column? Which one? The 6. Okay. And for the last one here, 35,815. The 1. Now, do we have any decimals? No. So, when we don't have a decimal, what kind of number do we have? What do we call it? Whole number. Okay? So, this is really important when we're rounding. So, what we do is, from the underlined position, we always look at the number immediately following the place value we want. Okay? So, we want the 8. We don't care about the 4. We do, right? Just to see, does it get bumped up, or does it stay? So, the number after the 8 is a 4, so what is the rule? What does the rule state? What does the rule state? Leave it as is. So, the 8 stays as is. What happens to the 4, though? What happens to the 4? It becomes a 0, exactly. So, for whole numbers, okay, this is a rule that you might want to jot down. Right, a little star. For whole numbers, okay, fit zeros immediately following the place value that you're keeping. Okay. So, I cannot round 84 to 8. Right? Because remember, the number you're rounding off must be pretty much within range of the actual number you're using. Okay? So we have to show this place value. We have to show that we're still in the tens column. By me rounding it and forgetting to put a 0 after the 8, just tells me now I've gone from a tens placeholder to a ones placeholder. So I still need to show with the use of zeros all the other placeholders that are after it. Okay. Besides, when we're rounding off here, this 84, we're having some technical difficulties here. With this 84, if we're looking at it in terms of we're rounding to the nearest 10, what number are we comparing 84? What range of numbers are we really looking at? What are we looking at? 80 and 90, very good, right? Because these are pretty much the values that are in the tens column in which 84 lies in between. So when we're rounding, we want to see between these two values, which one of these two is 84 closest to? So 84 is obviously closer to 80 than it is to 90. That's why we don't round it up to the next to 90. So that's really what this means. That's what I was trying to get at with the meaning of that. So next one, 462. We already identified the tens column. We look at the number after it. Does the number change the 6? No. Okay, so we keep the 6. What happens to the 2? 0. How about the 4? Stays the same. Stays the same. Next one. We are looking at the 1, right? We look at the number immediately following it. Okay, does that 2 change? Oh, sorry, there's a 1 change. I just gave you the answer. So 1 change, yes. Right? It becomes, as I said, 2. What happens to the 5? 0. How about the rest of the number? It stays the same. So the 3, 5, 8, 2, 0 is the answer to that one. Okay. Now, when rounding off, here's one of the mistakes that some people will do. So we have okay, so let's say we're rounding to this value here. Right? So we're looking at this number. Okay, so don't write this down, but just I want you to notice what we're doing. So if I'm underlining that line, what am I rounding off to? What place value? What is that? The thousands, right? So now we look at the number immediately following that, which means even if I have all these numbers here, which happen to be 5 or greater, we don't care. We only care about the number immediately following the one that we want. That is it. So technically, right away, I can put what in those places? Zeros. But what happens is sometimes students will look at it and go, well, this 1 isn't going to change because the number after that is a 4. But, because the number after that one is a 5. So shouldn't that 5 move this 4 into a 5, which will then turn this 1 into a 2? So they're rounding off down the line. They're not isolating it based on what I've underlined and the number immediately following. They're still looking down the line of numbers. Okay? You see what I did? It's not proper math, what I just did. Okay? All right? Look at the number here. 2, 1, 4, 5, 8. We want to round the 1. But sometimes students will look and go, but there's a 5 down here. Right? So if I have a 5 here, wouldn't that change this 4? Would it not? Thank you. So exactly, that's what I'm wondering why students keep doing this kind of stuff. Because students will do that. Because what they did was, they were really trying to round at the hundreds column.
Oh, so that's what the students do.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly.
So
that's not what you're supposed to do. So remember, the only thing, get into the habit of doing this whole underline the place value you need, and then the arrow immediately following it. And then do this, like I did here. I want to round, right? I want to round off this here. This 2, 1, 4, 5, 8. I want to round at this place value. We don't need these. So right away, because what kind of a number is this whole thing? It's a whole number. So because it's a whole number, I must put zeros in the place of the 5 and the 8. I don't care for them. I only care for the underline, the place value of question, the number immediately following it, which will also turn into a 0, okay, and any numbers that are not touched in front. Okay. So this 1, is it going to get changed? No. The 4 is going to become 0, and we keep the 2, 21,000. Okay. So that's the correct way to round that off. But like I said, people sometimes will look down the line at all the other numbers and panic and think, well, but then this will round that, and then, no, who cares? We don't care about any number after that. We are caring only about the placeholder that we're asking you to round from. Okay, so round the following 5374.835 to the nearest tens, to the nearest hundreds, to the nearest thousands, to the nearest tenths. So my advice to you is to rewrite this number all 4 of those times. Okay. So here we have because what we're going to do is, this is the number that we're trying to round off from, right? But if we want to do that whole Underline, right? We want to do the underline, and then arrow. We need, we need a clean number every single time we do it. Okay? So, if we're looking at the tens column for this first example, which one of these numbers am I going to underline? Which one am I going to underline? Huh? The 7. Okay, so I'm going to underline the 7. So what part of this number doesn't change? What part of the number doesn't change? Nope. The 5 and the 3, right? 7, we look at the number immediately following. Do I care about the 0.835? No, I don't care about that. So 7, will it change? Will it get bumped up? Or does it stay? It stays because the number is not a 5 or greater. And what's going to happen to the 4? It becomes 0. Now, what happens to everything after the decimal? Do I put zeros? Do I need them? No, I can just leave it there.
So you don't put zero.
I don't put the, no, because there's no point. If I put 5,370, or if I put 5,370.000, does that matter? No. It will matter down the road. Okay. You can put zeros if you like. You can put zeros if you like. This will come in more into play when you reach the grade 11 and are dealing with something called significant digits. But don't worry about that for us. Okay. Next one. Where's the hundreds? Which one am I going to underline? Which one is it? 3. So I'm going to look at the number immediately following it. So what happens to this 5 here? It stays, right? So we have a 5. What happens to the 3? Why? Because the number right after is bigger than 5. So 3 becomes a 4. What happens to that 7? Becomes a 0. How about that 4? Becomes a 0. And I don't need anything after that. So if we're rounding off in the wholes section, in the whole number section, we don't need to put any of the decimals if the number still continues to have decimals. Okay. Thousands. Which one am I rounding to? Which number? The 5, right? So we're going to look at the number immediately following it. Does it change the 5? No. So my answer is 5,000. And my last one here. Which number am I underlining? The 8. Okay, so I'm rounding underneath that. So my number. So does this 8 change? No. Now, what am I going to keep? What numbers? 5, 3, 7, 4, 0.8. And do I need the zeros here? No, because they're in my decimals. Okay, like I said, they will come. They will become important down the road when we get to reach some of the senior level sciences. When we do significant digits in chemistry and physics. So, any questions about this kind of rounding? No? Okay, round to the nearest whole number. So sometimes I may not ask based on an actual placeholder. So if I'm referring to the nearest whole number, what am I talking about? What am I talking about? Exactly, a number without a decimal, or every number that is before the decimal. Okay. So which means the last whole digit, which means really what place value? The ones. That's really what I'm looking for. So another way of saying whole number is pretty much rounding to the nearest ones. So let's look at a couple of questions here. 368.3, 5,374.5, and 1,000,000.5. So, which digit do we want in this this first number? Just shout it out. 8. All right. Second one. 4.
0.
And which one? The last 0, right here. Okay. And as we said, start off with the line of the placeholder and the arrow. So this first one, 368.3 is going to become 368. The 8 doesn't change because the number after it is a 3. Do I need the 0.0? Put it in the place of the 0.3? No, I don't. Okay. How about the next one? Is the 4 going to change?
Yes.
Yes. So the number is 537. 5,375. Okay, the 4 gets bumped up because the number after it is a 5 or greater. And this last one, 1,000,001. Okay. Now, next question. Round the following number to 1 decimal place. What does that mean? Which place value are we referring to? The tenths. So whenever you see that in a question, you're rounding it to the nearest tenth. So these are things you should be highlighting. Highlighting, put an asterisk next to it, just so you understand, because what's going to happen is you get a quiz, test, and then I'm going to say round to the nearest decimal place. And then you'll ask me, sir, what's the place value? You need to know that. Okay, so you need to understand this is part of your terminology that you need to know. So here are the questions. 345.52, 56.89, and 49.98. So let's figure out what place, which one are we underlining here?
5.
Which one? The second 5, right? The second 5. How about here?
8.
The 8. And we're looking at the number after that. And here?
9. The second 9.
Second 9. And a number right after that. So, does this 5 change? No. So the number is 3, 4, 5, decimal 5. Good. Next one. 56.9. The 8 got bumped up to 9. And this last one. Now, this 9 is going to become, it's not really 0, it becomes, no, don't give me the answer. Don't try to figure out what the answer is. What does that 9 become? 10, right? So if it becomes a 10, how do we write that? Well, this 9 becomes that the 0 here, but we carry this 1 over, right? And then that 9 plus that 1 is 10. Bring that 1 over, 50.0. Now, here's the thing. Do I need that 0, that 0.0? Technically I do. Do you know why I would need to put the 0.0 there? Why? Exactly. I am rounding to the nearest tenths, to the 1 decimal place. So I need to still show 1 decimal place, even though that's not going to change the difference. 50.0 and 50 are exactly the same. But here, 50, there's no 1 decimal place. You still want to show 1 decimal place, even though you're showing it with the number 0, the 0.0. Okay? So this is correct. That is not. Okay? It is, but I want you to still show. If you're asked to show 1 decimal place, throw in the 0.0. Add the following and round your answer to 1 decimal place. So here, sometimes you might not be asked to just round a number. Sometimes you might be asked to actually solve the problem and then round it. So we have as follows: 0.483 plus 1.394 plus 0.004. Notice that when we're adding decimals, we want to line up our decimals. So, what is it? What does the answer become?
1 decimal 8.
1 decimal 8, 8, 1. Okay. Now, always, even though it says round to whatever decimal place, solve it as is. Right? Then the next step would be to find the placeholder. What placeholder are we looking for?
8.
Which 8? the first 8. We're looking at the first 8. So we arrow to the next number. What happens to this 0.8? It becomes 0.9. Do we care about the 8-1? No. What about this 1 here? So it's 1.9 is our answer to this question. Question, yeah? No? What is the answer to this one when you added it? 36.876. Is it? 875. Now, we want which number? The 8, right? So we look at the number after it. We don't care about this 5, right? Remember we said we only care about the 1 immediately following the placeholder. So 0.8 becomes 0.9, and then we just keep the numbers that are in front. 36.9. And notice how we have 1 decimal place. Question says to 1 decimal place. We should make sure that we only have an answer that has only 1 decimal place as our final answer.